So the first piece in going headless is that it's not enough to say every platform has an API, right? Most platforms have offered some API layer for the last decade or more. Then why aren't we building headless applications, and why should we, right? The big emergence to me was like API first also kind of loses its norm, because then we say, oh, API first means build everything API first. No, actually, API first means that before you build an API, you write the documentation for the API and you mock up the API. So when you're building the experience, you build it against a mock up and then you go design your API, right? And even this is sometimes lost in the conversation today. Well, what is API first? But going headless basically means any part of the platform that can be configured through the platform's UI should now be made available through an API, which means I can actually extend the platform itself through APIs, which is where you have like these pure play headless providers like a Commerce Tools or even Cypress Order Cloud, which doesn't even have a UI. It is pure play headless to say, well, you can do everything with a platform through an API, right? And in
Right.
that, you're focusing at this point, right? The number one reason I call that the first pillar is that the most value you will unlock is by going headless, because you're now going to have that fully immersive, engaged experience, having frictionless experience where sometimes you see different parts of the UI rendered by different platforms, and your branding is now a little bit out of whack, and you are enabled to adhere to your brand guidelines, and you can sense that my emails don't look like my website, my mobile app doesn't look like my emails, and the customer is a little confused about, well, I got this email but I clicked on it, but this website doesn't look like what I was looking at. But when you're going headless and you really kind of nailed your customer experience in your creative design, your brand guidelines, and just one look and feel, you have solved for performance, you have improved your ranking when it comes to like SEO, you've increased engagement, you have now hopefully even increased conversion and CSAT, right? Because
Right.
your application is agnostic to the platforms that power that experience. That to me is like the most critical pillar, and is the fastest step to realizing value, right? The second step is to me then about coupling, right? Have what I call basically achieving modularity, which is everything is a self-contained module, and there's no single point of failure that is, hey, if my DXP goes down, my business goes down, right? Or this particular platform goes down, my search goes down, now my website goes down. Not anymore, right? The point
Hmm.
is now everything is a service, cart as a service, right? Search as a service, content syndication. But all of this still has to come together and work together. And the most important piece of all of this is eliminating data silos.
Right.
Each platform eventually wants to capture its analytics and then kind of put it all together. And what achieving modularity says, well, no single point of failure. I have APIs for everything. Basically, you have like a iPaaS layer or a microservices layer, right? And what this ensures is that zero downtime in terms of unlocking value, high resilience, information accuracy, as in the most relevant information and the most real information is making to the customer in the most real time. As in, if you are truly modular, that means you can offer real time pricing, you can offer real time inventory, right? Your everything talks to everything else, but it also is not a single point of failure. And another big portion of value engineering and unlocking value is going to be automation. Like, what have you automated that would have otherwise been manual? Because now the systems can actually talk to each other, right? So that
Right.
achieving modularity, going headless and achieving modularity. Now, this I think encompasses like the biggest portion of, or the biggest build portion of going composable. But the third pillar is to me, slightly the harder part, but I think the most critical part, because without this, I think you have addressed the needs of your customers, but you haven't addressed the needs of your organization. The third pillar to me is enabling business tooling, right? I
Hmm.
call it business tooling. You can call it, business operations. But really, imagine a portal or an agent experience or an admin experience where just as your customers go to one domain to get all their questions answered, whether they want to look up their previous orders, they want to access their profile, whether they want to browse or create or add the card, or whatever is your point of conversion, right? Your customers are able to do it, but now your employees should be able to power those experiences seamlessly. And so let me give you an example, right?
Yeah.
Imagine an agent experience, right? In a B2B scenario, somebody's browsing the website and the customer portal, but invariably they pick up the phone and want to talk to an agent because that's their rep and they're going to be more effective in helping the customer. And the agent picks up the phone and they're trying to answer a query, right? Let's say somebody wants to repeat an order, right? But they want something delivered to a very particular location, and the agent now has to possibly go through, an order management system to look up the existing order, switch over to a CRM to find out, where the customer is coming from, what are the locations, who are the contacts, maybe some contact details. Maybe then they have to swap back to their customer service portal to look up or log their ticket. It becomes very jarring for like an agent to be very effective in answering all those questions. Now imagine that the same customer then picks up the phone and wants to talk to sales. Now sales is going to have to log into their CRM and just to look up pricing or just to tell them whether or not something is available in inventory. So what this does is this third pillar ensures that you're building one experience for your employees, whether it's a marketer, whether it's a merchandiser, whether it's a customer service agent, whether it's a salesperson, that they can go to one portal and make certain changes to the enterprise data and content that then powers that customer experience seamlessly,
Yeah.
right? So this is that B2B portal that is like the super admin portal, right? And if you're building that, and some platforms actually come built in with some of this. Now, that's just one example of business tooling. Another business tooling could be just an iPaaS layer, right? Where everything gets integrated and you go to one place to get all your questions answered. Now, imagine, with generative AI, right? That takes on a whole new meaning. But
Right.
that's the third pillar. The fourth pillar is the final pillar, which really kind of unlocks the business to say, well, I want to run at light speed. So as things happen, how can I pivot my business and be ready for the next evolution, right? And the fourth pillar is application composition, right? Which is to say, can I build new building blocks of my application without having to write code? Have I arrived at a place where I can actually build my business, but not have to consistently write code, which is taking parts of your existing application and composing new applications. So here you can see a lot of low code, no code vendors come in and offer that easier ease of integration. But micro front end architecture is really helping the cause here, both in enabling that business tooling and application composition. And that's where you really unlock true ROI. You really get to like TCO, like you build once and use many principle.
Yeah.
Between these four pillars, you see different parts of value being unlocked. And then if you're doing a little bit of everything, you're well on your path to being composable. Start with headless, achieve modularity, enable your business tooling, and then make sure you have application composition, because tomorrow, something like COVID happens. Who was able to adopt BOPIS, buy online, pick up in store? And some provider showed up, like buy now, pay later shows up. How fast can you integrate that as a payment method? That's only going to come through modularity and application composition. And then tomorrow, when you negotiate a new contract with a payment provider and you want to swap them out, or you want to have 3 shipping providers and you want to add a fourth one, does your UI break? Or now is it a 6-month project? Or can you just get it done in like a month? That is a promise of composability in my mind.